Welcome back to the World According to Briggs. Today we're diving into a topic that hurts more than checking your bank account after a weekend Costco trip. The US cities 90% of Americans simply can't afford anymore. These aren't just pricey places. These are skip lunch for a year and hope your landlord forgets you exist kind of expensive. In 2025, housing costs, taxes, utilities, insurance, and gas prices have teamed up like the Avengers. If the Avengers' whole mission was to make sure you never own real estate. Now before we get going, we're skipping the four most expensive cities in the United States because they are obvious and you'll learn nothing you already don't know. I'll post their numbers at the end of the video. Let's take a look at the rest. Number 10, Arlington, Virginia. Arlington used to be the smart move. If you couldn't afford DC, you could cross one bridge, get slightly cheaper rent, and still pretend you lived in Washington, DC. Those days are gone. Arlington is now a place where the Pentagon is your neighbor and your mortgage payment looks like it belongs in a Pentagon weapons contract. This is one of those suburbs that quietly crept up the price ladder while everyone was distracted with New York and San Francisco. Median home values are now pushing mid-800s. And housing costs are almost twice the national average. The classic starter home dream turned into a maybe I can afford a studio if I never retire and live on instant noodles. Add in Virginia's rising gas tax, and commuting doesn't feel cheaper anymore. Here's the numbers. The cost of living in Arlington is about 33% above the national average. The median home value is about $850,000. Typical homes in the United States, just for comparison, are about $540,000 right now. That is going down, so a couple months it could be $500,000. Virginia's gas tax is 41 cents a gallon. That's in the top 10 in the country. And the average home insurance premium yearly is $2,470 and climbing. Number 9, Bethesda, Maryland. Bethesda used to be a nice suburb with doctors. Now it's a nice suburb where you need surgeon-level money to pay your property taxes. The median home values here are north of $1.1 million. That's almost double the national average. This allegedly is where you go for a quieter life. Quieter, yes. Cheaper, not even close. Maryland doesn't make it easier on you either. They have some of the highest gas tax in the nation. They're almost 50 cents per gallon. This is a state that's got a tax for almost every occasion. Utilities and groceries are above average too, so even your fridge and shower have higher standards than most states. Bethesda used to be a cheaper option than DC. Now it's about as expensive as DC, but it's got half the crime, so there's a plus there. Here's their 2025 numbers. The cost of living here is 33.5% above the national average. The median home value is $1.14 million. Maryland's gas tax is about 46 cents a gallon, and the average home insurance is about $1,800 a year. Number 8, Framingham, Massachusetts. Framingham used to be the more normal side of Greater Boston. Milltown roots, working class neighborhoods, some tech, and retail. Nothing too wild. Now it's what happens when Boston housing crisis spills over the city limits. Median home values here are well over $600,000, and that's for a place that once attracted people because it wasn't Boston priced. Real estate is a full contact sport now in Massachusetts. A recent report says that income needed to afford a low-end house in this region, in the Boston region, is about $98,000 a year. Oh, that was in 2021. Now it's $162,000. That's not good starter home money. That's two careers and a side hustle money. On top of that, electricity in Massachusetts is among the most expensive in the continental US. It's about 75 to 80% above the national average. Add in above average insurance and a tax climate that isn't exactly gentle, Framingham has gone from sleeper suburb to budget wrecking ball. Here's the numbers. The cost of living in Framingham is about 34.5% above the national average. The median home value here is $624,000, and the average homeowner's insurance is about $1,733 a year. The one good thing is Massachusetts has one of the lowest gas taxes in the country. It's 0.2747, so it's ranked 31st in the nation. That's not terrible. Number 7, Washington, D.C. D.C. used to be a place where you went for opportunity and reasonable East Coast pricing compared to New York City. Now, the median home value is over $700,000. The city still has those free museums, and you're basically paying for it with your rent or your house payment. The kicker is how everything else quietly piles on. Groceries, utilities, transportation, and services all run above the national average. You could ride the metro to save on gas, but you'll pay for it in higher taxes and overall cost of living. That's nearly 40% above the national average. DC used to be a place where a Hill staffer with roommates could get by. Now even dual income couples look at rent and start Googling cheaper towns with decent Wi-Fi. The city is slowly turning into a place for well-paid lawyers, lobbyists, contractors, and people who bought in around 2012. Everyone else there is just visiting friends. Here's their numbers. Washington, D.C. cost of living is 38.1% above the national average. Now, a good way to look at cost of living, let's say in groceries. If you go to the average town in, let's say, Indiana, that's normally where it is, where the cost of living is even. You buy $100 worth of groceries and you take that to DC in this case, that same $100 worth of groceries now costs you $138. That's not the perfect way to look at it, but it gives you an idea. Now there's two levels of housing in Washington, DC. There's the bad neighborhoods and there's the good neighborhoods. To give you an idea, the median home value in a bad neighborhood is about $715,000. The average home price in one of the decent ones is $1.1 million. Number 6, Seattle, Washington. Now, I thought about taking this one off the list too, because we've talked about it several times and everyone knows it's terribly expensive. But it's really not up there with the high-end San Francisco, New York City ones. But here we are. Seattle used to be a quirky, rainy city where musicians and coders could actually afford rent. Now tech money happened. Now the grunge is just your bank account after paying your mortgage. Median home values here are almost $900,000. And this place has horrible weather. I mean, it's beautiful and the surrounding area is beautiful and Elliott Bay, fabulous. But the weather is usually a big deterrent for people to move there and the home prices drop because of it. Just these tech people are making so much money in the Seattle area. It's like the weather is nothing to them. They're indoors anyway, I imagine. Now, the good news is Washington has no state income tax, which sounds great until you realize everything else has been quietly cranked up. Gas taxes are among the highest in the United States, and Seattle's overall cost of living lands more than 40% above the national average. Now, Seattle's not the entire state, and there are some cheaper places, but it's pretty expensive. You got to go to the eastern side of the state, where it's a lot flatter and a lot drier, and real estate prices come back down to reality a little bit. But in the 1990s, people moved to Seattle because it was cheaper than California. Now a lot of people are moving out to cheaper places in Washington, just farther from the city, farther from jobs, and definitely farther from the view of Rainier. Here's their numbers. The cost of living is 41.2% above the national average. The median home value is about $898,000. No state income tax, but high sales and gas tax. Keep that in mind. The gas tax in Washington is in the top 3. It's 59 cents a gallon. Their utilities are just a hair above the national average, so that's not bad. Still pretty expensive. Number 5, Boston, Massachusetts. Boston used to be expensive but survivable. Students stacked in triple-decker apartments, young professionals in tiny walk-ups, everyone grumbling but getting by. Now the average Boston home price has blown past $1 million, and housing costs are roughly 114% above the national average. That's according to Kiplinger. Utilities here are brutal. Massachusetts' electricity rates are some of the highest in the country. Add Boston's higher healthcare and general service costs, and just existing there feels like a full-time financial job. It used to be a place where you could absorb the pain of winter in exchange for decent wages and history on every corner. Now even people with decent wages are getting priced into the suburbs. Here's their numbers. The cost of living is 44.8% above the national average. The average home value here is about $1 million. It's 1.06. The average rent is about $4,157 a month for a 2-bedroom. Like I said earlier, the average about $1,600. And like we said earlier, the average homeowner's insurance in Massachusetts is $1,733 a year. Number 4, San Diego, California. San Diego used to be marketed as cheaper than LA with better weather. Now it's just LA with a slightly better mood. The average San Diego home price has climbed above $1.1 million in many reports. Now, San Diego brings it back to reality. They have really high prices, but they have great weather. It's considered to have the best weather of any major metro area in the United States. Now, California is ridiculous when it comes to cost of living and everything that goes in that. I mean, we already know this. Right now, they have some of the highest gas prices in the country, with the average gallon of gas going for $4.50 to $4.90. The national average right now in late 2025 is about $3. Now, San Diego comes with an added problem of wildfires, and that's spiked insurance rates here. That's really all of Southern California, but San Diego stands above most of the major cities in Southern California. So you're paying extra to buy a house, extra to insure it, extra to fuel the car, and extra to keep the lights on. But hey, the weather's nice, right? Here's their numbers. The cost of living in San Diego is 46.1% above the national average. The median home value is about $923,000. The average gas price in San Diego is $4.66 a gallon. And the average homeowner's insurance is about $1,825 a year. Number 3, Los Angeles, California. Yeah, this is another one I probably could have slipped in there too and taken out because it's too expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than San Francisco and New York. At least Manhattan and New York. Los Angeles used to be the cheaper alternative to places like San Francisco and New York City. Now it's an affordable option, has an average home price of around $1.3 million. What do you get for that kind of money? World-class traffic, gas taxes that are the highest in the US, utilities, groceries, and random life expenses all run above the national average. And like San Diego, they've got higher insurance rates now because of wildfires and climate risks, as they call it. Once upon a time, you moved to LA, waited tables, and chased your dreams. In 2025, you moved to LA, drive for 3 different apps, rent an apartment the size of a laundry room, and hope that your landlord doesn't decide to sell to someone who can actually pay cash. The cost of living in Los Angeles is about 50% above the national average. The average home value here is about $1.35 million. Depending on the area, you might be able to get something for around $930,000. The neighborhood I grew up in, Torrance, California, which is in the southern section of Los Angeles County, my parents bought a home there for under $150,000 in the early 80s. That same home right now is going for about $1.2 million. It's crazy. Number 2, Queens, New York. Queens was supposed to be the affordable borough, the place you went when Manhattan and Brooklyn laughed at your budget. Now the cost of living is more than 50% above the national average, and the average home price is around $1.3 million. That's the cheaper borough. New York State has the second highest overall tax burden in the country at almost 13.6% of your income. That's just behind Hawaii. Add New York City's own sales tax and property taxes, and residents are basically in a long-term relationship with their tax bill. Utilities in New York run noticeably higher than the national average, and everything else, of course, in the New York City area, doesn't matter what borough you're in, is a little more expensive. Queens used to be for working class families where they could buy a modest house and still send their kids to college. Now it's where working class families who bought decades ago are sitting on assets they couldn't afford to purchase today. Everyone else, enjoy the rent. Here's their numbers. The cost of living is 50.6% above the national average. The average home price here is about $1.36 million. Average rent is $3,937. Your total tax burden, like I said earlier, is 13.6%. And it's just, a very expensive place to live. But they're not the worst. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're looking to watch another video after this, we suggest 2 at the end. We'd really appreciate it if you give them a look. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Brooklyn, New York. Yes, Brooklyn's glow up is complete. The old, cheaper than Manhattan borough is gone. If Brooklyn were its own city, it would rival Chicago in population and blow past it in housing pain. Cost of living here is 60% above the national average, and housing costs are nearly 4 times what the typical American pays. All right. Here's the numbers. The cost of living here is 59.4% above the national average. The median home value is about $1.2 million. Utilities are 19.1% above the national average. And like we learned earlier, your total tax burden in New York is the second highest in the nation. But it's still not as expensive as Manhattan. Now here's the ones that we skip. At number 5, you had San Francisco. Their cost of living is 60% above the national average. Orange County, California, which is Newport Beach, Anaheim, Irvine, they're 61.7% above the national average. San Jose is 81.1% above the national average. Number 2 is Honolulu at 82.1% above the national average. And of course, Manhattan, their cost of living is 132% above the national average. All right, that's today's video. If you want to watch another video, watch one of the 2 being suggested right now. One of them is about the states that don't want you moving in. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.